Today we are at the Houston Holocaust Museum, a place that reminds us of an incredibly dark time in our modern-day history, where most of the world stood silent while 6 million Jews and 5 million others perished in Hitler's racist war machine and ovens. I recently studied a bit of the history of the Jewish people surviving among the nations during the diaspora, and it truly is a miracle that a Jew exists in our world today. From the Romans in 70 AD destroying the temple and forcing the Jews out of their homeland, to Hitler's Holocaust and the Intifada with the Palestinians and the radical Muslims in Israel today, no other ethnic people have survived a long-term period of exile from their own country. They were either killed off by their conquerors or assimilated into their culture with loss of identity never to be seen again. Speaking of exile, I recently read some history about Christopher Columbus that I was never taught in elementary school. It refers to the fact that the money that Christopher Columbus was given for his voyages by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella was Jewish people's money who were forced to exile because they would not convert and be baptized into Catholicism. Another point is that Christopher Columbus, or shall we say Christopher Colon, a very Jewish last name, was himself Jewish. He even spoke Hebrew. We know this because his cartographer was Jewish and wrote all of the maps and notes in Hebrew, and he had to understand that. He logged in his journals that he saw land for the first time on the Jewish festival of Sukkot. So, dear America and the world, America was discovered by a Jew, the money for the voyages was funded by Jewish sacrifices, and for those of us that never learned this in school either, Chaim Solomon, a Jewish businessman in America, financed the American Revolution, as well as helped pay the salaries of the first couple of presidents. Here we have Jewish people, major players in the discovering and the building of our nation, a wonderful head nation, and Jewish people birthing and given eternal land rights to the biblical head nation, which is Israel. If you read Genesis 12:8, it says, "Also I give to you and your descendants after you all the land of Canaan as an everlasting possession." And when the Messiah comes, be it that you believe it will be his first visit or his second, is going to be a Jew, and he's returning to a Jewish land, Israel. For Isaiah 59:20 says, "And the Redeemer shall come to Zion." Today we're going to be interviewing Ricky Rousseau, who is a Sephardic Jew. She is from Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was a place of refuge for the Spanish Jews during the Spanish Inquisition. She's going to tell us of her ancestors and how 450 years after the Spanish Inquisition, she and her family were once again forced to exile or be killed. History repeated itself through Hitler. And how she got to return to the Promised Land, Israel, and live there for many years. But first, here's Christina Vasquez of Holocaust Museum Houston.
Hello, my name is Christina Vasquez. I'm Associate Director of Educational Outreach here at Holocaust Museum Houston. Earlier, Rosalie spoke of a timeline of the Holocaust. And in order for us to understand how the Holocaust occurred, we must first understand the history of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a term that was coined in 1879 by a German scientist and journalist, Wilhelm Marr. But anti-Semitism has been with us through the centuries. One of the most prevalent forms of anti-Semitism occurred in England in the year 1290, then in France in the year 1306, and in Spain with the Spanish Inquisition of 1492. Anti-Semitism was finally starting to be quelled during the Enlightenment, but only in Western Europe. Eastern Europe, it seems, still had a great deal of anti-Semitism, especially in countries like Poland. As I was saying earlier, we must look at the timeline of anti-Semitism. In Spain, in the year 1306, intermarriage and sexual intercourse between Christians and Jews was prohibited. Later on in France, in the year 535, Jews are not allowed to hold public office. About 700 years later, we have the Crusades, in which Jews who did not convert to Christianity were killed. In Spain, between the years 681 and the 1200s, it was written that books such as the Talmud and other Jewish religious books were to be burned. Martin Luther, one of the founding fathers of the Reformation, became very frustrated in his efforts to try to convert Jews to Christianity, and as a result, called for the burning of Jewish homes and synagogues. Later on in Italy, Jews were forced to wear yellow badges identifying themselves as Jews. And in addition to this, they were also forced to leave their homes and live in ghettos. Here we have the establishment of ghettos in Germany. And finally, in one of the largest acts of anti-Semitism, in the year 1492, Jews were expelled from Spain, the same year that Christopher Columbus sailed to the Americas.
Welcome to the crossover. To begin tonight's segment, this photograph that is over my shoulder here, I just want you to look at for a minute. It's a window, as you can see, with a candle in it. And in America and probably almost every country around the world, around Christmas time, that's a pretty common sight. But back in the days of Second World War and the Holocaust, that candle had a lot more significance and symbolism. It was a sign, it was a signal to the people in the street that it was safe to bring into the house a Jewish person that would be protected from the Germans, from the Nazis, and sheltered and given a place of to rest and protection. And tonight we have a very special lady with us, Ricky Russos, who survived the turmoil and horror in those days in a concentration camp. And Ricky, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
We're really glad
to be with you, and thank you for having me.
We're very glad that you take the time to do this and share. Ricky, you were born in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia. Tell us what it was like when you were a child back there in these days.
Like you said, I was born in Sarajevo, former Yugoslavia. Sarajevo had a big Jewish population, and were almost 12,000 Jews living in Sarajevo. Most of them were from Spain, Sephardim, they call them. My family settled in Sarajevo in the 16th century. We go back. They came after expulsions of the Jews from Spain. Before World War II, Sarajevo had a nice Jewish community, very rich Jewish heritage. We had 5 synagogues that they all destroyed 1941. We had a Jewish paper, La Benevolencia, they call it. We had a Jewish day school, elementary school for Jewish children. And most of Jews, they were professional. They were lawyers, they were doctors, they were sculptors, and a lot of professionals. Between them was my father. He was a carpenter. He had a government job. He worked for a railroad station, and everything was fine. My childhood was beautiful. We were not rich comparing what I have today in here and what I see how people live in here. We were poor comparing, today. But we were very, very happy family. We observed all Jewish holidays. Like I said before, my father was working and had a government job. On April 6, 1941, Germans occupied Yugoslavia. After a week, they came to Sarajevo, as some of his friends told him, Isaac, change your religion, become Muslim or convert to Christianity, you might keep your job. His answer was, I was born Jew, I'm gonna die Jew. After a month, he lost his job, and his crime was because he was born in a Jewish family. End of October 1941, German with a big Hakenkreuz, he came with a local Quisling, and they took him and my 17-year-old brother. We never saw them anymore. They were killed in Jasenovac, today is Croatia, in a camp. After they took my father, we moved with my aunt. She was a sister of my mom, and we stayed with her till February 1942. At the time, we thought that Italians are more tolerant to Jews, and we tried to escape to Mostar. I was helped by a woman that she brought me an identification card, and I went to Mostar 1942.
Ricky, excuse me.
Sure.
Let me take you back. Let's go back to Sarajevo for a minute. What was the population there of the Jewish people at that time?
Was almost 20,000 Jews. All Bosnia and Herzegovina had 14,000. Less than 1,000 people survived World War II, and most of them, they left between 1948 and 1951 to Israel, and I was one between them, moving to Israel.
When you were in Sarajevo, this is around 1941, there were billboards in town that, what did they say?
They said for Jews, gypsies, and dogs not allowed. I could not go to a park. I tell my grandchildren and different children, I could not go with kids they take for granted today. They take bikes, they go to a park. I could not do that because Jews were not allowed to do that.
Just the simple things in life were denied.
Very simple things. And I was denied to go to school. I could not go to school. First day that they came to Sarajevo, it stopped. My schooling stopped.
In 1941 October, the SS came to your door. What happened?
And they came, and on that list was name of my father and my brother. That night they took just of men, and they were killed 1942 in February. And I know for a fact because I have a cousin that survived Jasenovac 4 years, and he lives today in Zagreb. Matter of fact, I saw him last year, and I asked him to come to Spain because I told him I wouldn't go to.
Was that the last time you saw your father and brother?
That was the last time that I saw my father.
Then you said you went to Mostar via the help of a Muslim lady. Explain that. Was she a liberator in your eyes?
No, actually, because at the time my uncle lived in Mostar. He was working for a company in Sarajevo, and they transferred him to Mostar because company man was Jew. Anyhow, and he little by little he tried to bring all family to Mostar. He gave her money, and she came. She took my brother. He was at 8, 9 years old at the time, and she brought a big fez. Was a hat that Muslims they wear, and she put that hat on him. And she told me after she took me to a railroad station, she said, "I don't know you, and you don't know me." But when I came to go to a train, I forgot my name, and she pushed me, and she said, "Emalia, move." Her name was Emalia Pelzer, and after she said that, I woke up.
This was your new name on the card?
It was my new name, of course. And I didn't see women anymore. Before we came to Mostar, she told me, I'm going to take your brother, and you, when I tell you, you jump from a train, because Carabinieri, which were Italian fascists, they know me. If they see me, they're going to arrest me. And we didn't enter to a station. And I was very naive. I jumped from a running train. Today, probably I wouldn't do it. I was 14 years old at the time.
14. Ricky, there was a period where you were living with how many other families in one room?
Was probably 16 people in Mostar. Whoever came to Sarajevo came to my uncle, and he didn't have it. He had one room. And everybody was lucky to go out from Sarajevo, but we didn't know. And that Italian fascists gonna behave very badly. And they took us on September 6th. They ordered us to come to a Jewish community, and they took us to an island of Yugoslavia. Name was Hvar, and after 6 months, they transport us to concentration camp. They call it Campo de Concentramento in Rab, and I was till September 6, 1943 up there. 1943, September 6, 1943 was a capitulation of Italy. In the same time, Tito's partisans liberated that camp, and I went to a partisans, and I was 2 years in a partisans, were a big territory that was liberated by Tito's partisans. Today's Croatia. Croatia was a Kordun, Banja, and Lika, they call it.
Ricky, there was a period you got to also go to Israel. What was that moment when you stepped on the land of Israel?
Okay, it was very good feeling, because Yugoslavia emerged after World War II as a communist country, and long as you didn't speak your mind, you were okay. But as soon as you start to, speak your mind, was not good. And I saw kids my age and my friends were arrested because they didn't believe anymore what Stalin said, what Tito said, and I was very glad that I went to Israel.
When you went back to Yugoslavia in the 70s, war's been over for many years. What was the situation then?
I was 1977 from Columbus, Ohio. At the time I lived in Columbus, Ohio. Before I came to Houston, I went to visit Yugoslavia. But for me, I was walking in Sarajevo. I was in tears. Everybody thought I was not normal, because every place I went, it reminded me of the uncles and the aunts that nobody survived Holocaust.
Did the town remember the horror of the Holocaust? Was it wiped away?
Well, they had in one of temples that survived was built in the 16th century, I believe, and they could not destroy it because it was built from a stone.
Okay.
They made it museum. And in that museum was a picture of my father, my brother, was a list of the people that died in Auschwitz. And
Ricky,
that was only reminder of it. And I went 1976, I went with cousin of mine, I visited concentration camp Jasenovac, and they had museum, they have a statues. Almost 20,000 Jews perished in that camp. Or they starved them to death, or they beat them till they die.
Ricky, in the last couple of seconds, how important, tell these viewers, is your family?
It's very, very important to me. I was blessed. Hitler tried to kill us, wipe us all. He didn't succeed. I have 2 beautiful children. I am blessed with 7 grandchildren. One is a sophomore at University of Chicago studying physics. And his sister is going to graduate on June 20th from Westport, Connecticut, from a high school. And his little sister, she's going to be 14 years old tomorrow, and she graduates from a I. Wiener Jewish School on a June 2nd here in Houston. And for me, is They are very important, and I try to teach them Jewish legacy. And my husband, unfortunately, died 2 years ago on February 4th, 1999. He was a survivor too. He was from Greece. He left them Jewish legacy. We had a Passover a couple months ago. My grandchildren sat around the table in Westport, Connecticut. They said story of Exodus in Hebrew, Spanish, and English. And family speaks Ladino because they came from Spain and they kept that. My grandma was born and raised in Sarajevo, but she never learned Serbian. We took her to Israel. She never learned Hebrew, but we spoke Ladino with her. And I try today to teach my kids and everybody else to be good Jew, to be tolerant of each other, try to take care of each other, and that's the most important, and that's what I want them to remember me, and not to be prejudiced. I always tell them, and I see a lot of kids that I volunteer twice a week in a Holocaust museum, in a library. They bring a lot of kids around, and I'll always tell them a little bit of my life and tell them not to be prejudiced, because prejudice brings destruction to you, your family, in a long run to a country, and try to take care of each other, because Hitler succeeded to kill 6 million Jews, 1.5 million innocent children, because people didn't care and nobody cared about us.
Well, unfortunately, Ricky, we are out of time, and we thank you so much for sharing your passion with all of us and our viewers. Now back to Rosalie.
We hope that you enjoyed our show. Here's the picture one more time of Ricky's family and her grandchildren to show that that the Jews will continue to live on. They have a place in our world for the redemption of our world, and they will not be destroyed, because God's word will not return void.
All your heart, O Jerusalem, for the Lord has taken your punishment, destroyed your enemies. King of Israel, Lord of all is He, in the midst of us, He is mighty. Rejoice, rejoice, daughter of Zion, shout aloud, Israel, sing, rejoice with all your heart, O Jerusalem. For the Lord your God in the midst of you, mighty is His name. Rejoicing over you with songs of gladness, singing joyfully, He will save